In the summer of 2024, 12 of the greatest minds in the history of video game development, design, and theory gathered in the woods of Southern Oregon to discuss the modern gaming industry and the emergence of artificial intelligence technology. This is a series of conversations between old friends, old men now, men who have shaped the gaming world as we know it today, and whose innovations will continue to influence how we play for generations to come. Episode 9, the role of big data in decision making.
I think as designers, there's like two dimensions here. Number one, is right now it's fun with ChatGPT. You can ask them a question about World War II history or cooking recipes or how to raise a pig, whatever. I can ask any of these questions and I get fairly reasonable answers, right? But this is, up in the cloud, running on servers, there's an economic cost to that. We can actually build right now much more limited domain models, with, white room, clean data. And here's my, model for cooking. Here's my model for World War II history, which we can now run on the platform itself. All right, we're not having to hit the net at all. And it's a tiny fraction of the cost right now. So we want to scale to millions of players, and we want the thing to be fairly, it also, the answers are better if it's, just limited to cooking or history or whatever it is. So I think it's going to be more like that, where we will segment these things out into domain-specific areas, both for economics and for quality results.
I have a prediction, which is out of a world that most of us don't spend much time. But in the next 5 years, that the Snap-on man will sell you an AI tool. So if you are
our tools.
Oh, there's a guy with a truck will sell you tools. Okay, it's one of the great scams, by the way. My grandfather in 1968 called those guys drug dealers because they have a great business model based on credit. They sell you shit at credit at relatively.
They stop at all the car dealerships, whatever, sell high-end tools to the mechanic.
And they're fabulous. They are fabulous tools. Just so you know,
they are good,
really great tools. But what's interesting is, I know that Snap-on guy that I build the most often, who doesn't get any of my money, but he does 50% of his current business. It's electronics. He sells ratchets, but he sells a lot of electronics, and he thinks software is next. I think he doesn't know what he's selling, but you're going to get a tool that will help you diagnose that persnickety 2010 Subaru Boxer motor that you can't get the fuel injection to get fixed on. He'll be selling him those kinds of things. So,
and that tool,
that implies that they're tools, and that people actually, they sell and buy them as well as.
And those tools will use AI, so you'll hold your microphone up to your engine, and it'll say, "Oh, your crankshaft bearing is out,"
or you plug it in the OBD.
Or both, but it'll very accurately diagnose, what that funny noise is coming from your engine.
There's already an app out there that you can put on your phone, and it will listen 24/7 for you to cough and diagnose a whole bunch of diseases.
Cough. I don't like
that. It's called HYFE. Oh no, of course.
It gives a lot of fun with that.
To try to bring some of it back to kind of like game design.
Yes, thank you.
I think kind of the thing that, like, when I talk to like my producers and the people on, like, we're paid for our sensibilities at the end of the day. We need to issue good judgment and know the difference between good and bad. And so, and that's sort of, it's our instinct too. And it's instinct built upon knowledge and playing games and that sort of thing. How much of the future with these, super beings that will be sitting next to us going, A/B tested, versus we're going, well, you know what? Everything's not answerable with an A/B test. And I think my instinct is I want to deliver them something they're uncomfortable with, like Don was talking about. So those are the kind of things I think about, yes, fine, you're going to have this unbelievable data. I'm going to have a super being next to me, but is instinct still going to play a role based upon those sorts of things?
I'd like to put that to Sid. What do you think? Is instinct going to be more important than the quantitative measures?
Amen. Amen. We've been doing this for a decade, so hopefully that's worth something.
It is for sure to any of the people watching.
Yeah, I think there's more to game design than raping what's already been done. I think there's something about. I go back to we were going to have self-driving cars in 12 months, but it's turned out to be a harder problem than I looked at first. I think this is a harder problem, and Chris, you were talking about the richness of the human mind and how much is going on there. I still think we're being amazed by things that look amazing, but I think there's a lot more to it, and I hope the decades that we've spent have some value. And I continue to believe that they do.
You mean flashlights don't amaze you?
Well, so the self-driving car thing is a really interesting analogy. So
Yeah.
for me, those of you who have used a Tesla or any car that quote unquote claims to have it, so they have self-driving and they have auto drive. They're two different settings. Self-driving tries to do everything the world tries to navigate, change lanes, turn right at stoplights, stop, not hit pedestrians, all that kind of stuff. All auto drive does is go this speed, follow that car in front, don't run into it, and stay in the lane. And it turns out that's actually all I care about.
Yeah.
That other stuff, every time I try and do the other thing, it's like it tries to take the wrong exit or all that other stuff. But simply, if you follow that car in front of me, maintain a distance, keep me in the rails, you have reduced my driving load by 80, 90%.
Especially in a traffic jam.
Yeah, exactly. So when I'm driving home from the racetrack, auto drive is heaven on earth because I got about 40% capacity left.
Right.
And the car is filling up the rest of it, and I appreciate it.
Well, if you're only like 5 or 10 miles an hour, who gives a shit if,
So my point is, I think it's good enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the problem here is we've made perfection, the idea that a car could navigate its way through San Francisco, which I can't do, by the way.
I think Gordon's point about we the horse can count to 3. We have these brains, that have evolved over, billions of years, but we're not surfing Moore's law. This AI, these systems, they are, So what we're talking about right now is how amazing they are today, which is a brief period in time.
Yeah.
10 years from now, I cannot predict what these things will be able to do because they'll be, 4 or 5 times more powerful than they are today.
Well, there's one possible. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Guard.
Go ahead. My thing is less. Well, so the self-driving car thing is a very, our risk tolerance is so low that self-driving cars would be, if we'd had the technology we have today back in the 1950s, the death rate would have been accepted.
Yeah.
Right? We don't accept the death rate. That's the only difference.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. The drunk driving. Hey, a drunk driving in an auto drive car is way better.
No, but again, that's the background. The context is our expectation is zero error, right? And that's really tough to do. And they're out there just gathering more and more data, and it's getting better and better. And every time they do something stupid, everybody stops and puts their phone camera on it, so we
It's in the headlines
of it, right? But nonetheless, the progression is progressing. It's progressing.
Well, and there are places where even that application of quote-unquote self-driving will work fine. If I'm a truck driver trying to get from Tustin to Hayward, 95% of that trip is driving in a straight line in the same lane.
My sister was working for UPS up until recently. She guaranteed me that it's less than 5 years before all the long haul stuff is okay.
Now, so my favorite, by the way, I had one because I have a devious brain. What I expect you're going to see is a collection of, they're actually going to train those things together because that's going to be the easiest way. So you have like 6 trucks in a row, and it'll be self-driving, and they'll try and send it with nobody, and then they'll discover that Rich will stand out in the middle of I-5 and make them stop. And then my buddies will empty the fucking truck. At which point, they will put another guy in the front seat of the first one with a red button that says security. And we'll have somebody, and the cost of a truck driver will have gone from $50 an hour to $15.
Oh, Sid has
The
something.
drones that are following, that's off of it. I don't know.
Sid, what's your...
Just a quick note on the reason I brought up self-driving cars is because I think it's the kind of problem that computers are not good at, but people are.
Yeah.
And I think game design is the same kind of a problem. It's something that people are good at, but computers are not problems for computers.
It's easy to say that about segue. Just to segue back to something, to make Sid feel a little better. I did some work basically embedded at Zynga, and this was around 2010, 2011, and they had moved away from using game designers and instead had, I don't even know what the titles of these people were, but they were like making random changes to the games and doing massive A/B testing and saying the income went up, 1.2% on this, so we're gonna, go with this one. But one of the things that they were doing is, for example, exploiting people's guilt, and it's almost the 7 deadly sins, sort of finding all these ways. For example, your farms would start to wilt, and your friends would visit your farms and, be able to say, oh, wow, that's pretty awful that you're doing that. But they'll sell you this anti-wilting stuff, and the money they were making from the anti-wilting stuff was just driving up, saying, let's do more of this and maybe increase the wilting rate so we get more of that. And people who had invested a whole bunch in their Farmville farms were pouring money into it. And this is really great. And then we've got a new game out here. Anybody want to play the new game? And it's like, no, they were doing fine until they started exploiting people, and they made money because the algorithms and the testing that we're talking about doing was showing that this is going to be more profitable. But they didn't have designers, who would say, yeah, this is going to be a real short-sighted thing. I mean, the reality is we all know there are people, with their hands, on the tiller who will say, sorry, we're doing the thing that makes more money in the short term because that's what the stockholders want.
That was Zynga's whole business model, basically.
Yeah. But in the long run, if they had been able to look forward a little bit, and maybe they could teach the AI to look forward, I don't know. But
so the longest running analytics-based gaming system I'm aware of in the world is the slot machine business, Falstein. And they have a term. It's called innovating by watching your toes. And the problem with that is eventually you'll discover that in front of you is the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
So what human beings add to that equation at that level is a sense of where are we going, and is it worth going there? That is an important part of that design. Considering they're in the 7 deadly sins business, even they discovered that they still have to manage for the long term. There may be another reason. I've been in San Francisco and had a Waymo stuck in the middle of a intersection, crossed, and that just may have been other car road.
Yeah, Don, you.
Yeah, and I think this comes back to exploiting kind of the marketer's opportunity, which is we think we decide logically on what we purchase, but actually emotion drives most purchase decisions. And then the brain steps in and goes, oh, before you proceed, let me provide you with a very logical and easily explanatory way to defend this decision. So you can say that this was intellect, not emotion, which drove you to take this action. And then we convince ourselves that we are, in fact, when emotion drives so much. And then the question is, when data and the interpretation of data divides that, then what we get is the exploitation of the emotion without that check on it of the intellect going, oh, wait a second, I'm out. That's, here's something with it.
Also, I mean, to know, and Sid's point, we should be able to look ahead, way ahead. Am I maximizing it short term? Am I going to lose my player base? Just see it in a steady decline? That's what, which I agree here. That's why I like manual transmission cars, because I can actually look way ahead and see what that curve is and say what gear to be in. The automatic transmissions, they probably will be able to do that one day, but they can't today,
Sid, there's a game for you to design here. You can call it Corporation. And it will...
Short-sighted corporation.
Yeah, short-sighted versus long-sighted.
And I have a single law that will be central to the game, Sid, and that is corporate earnings results and estimates come out only once a year instead of 4 times a year on the quarters.
Good point.
Because
So would you rather be a pirate or a pilot or a leader of a great civilization, or do you want to run a corporation? We want to be
a pirate and leader of a great corporation.
Yeah. Now it's like the movie Swoop, which I think was underrated, where they say Peter, who's the lawyer, you've become a pirate.
we're raiders.
It's great seeing it.
I don't know, when I see Corporation the game, I got to be honest, I think of the old Monty Python bit with the building that they.
Pirate ship. Yeah, I don't want to put that rule in a game. I want to put that rule in our lives. Because if we could cut those earning reports out to once a year, the amount of bullshit we would deal with would decline by some perceivable percentage.
You know what? I'm not sure it's true. I mean, the online businesses now, it's external reporting that's driving so much.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
They don't even care about the annual reports.
Chris, we need a new topic that's game focused.
Yes, I agree, but it's 12 minutes to 12, so we need a topic that we can do in 12 minutes.
Sid, got a 12-minute topic?
Yeah.
I have that.
Oh.
Cool.
Pressure's on. Given the group, how about this one? What's been our impact on the world, either positive or negative?
Oh, yeah.
That's a great.
That's not 12 minutes, but we can get started.
I've got a wrap up for what we did this morning. So
Okay, let's do Sid's when we come back.
That's a great subject, and that's not 15 minutes.
Okay.
It would be
What's the meaning of life? Go.
No. So mine was we really kind of discussed the issue. It would be interesting to hear each of our predictions of the first game that will define the AI generation of game design.
Does it exist now or not?
Maybe the point is category or whatever or style.
Asking us to be smarter than the AI.
So I have my.
Where today?
I don't know if I could count up to 4.
I
had a shot.
I have a suggestion, a soap opera game. You can generate that with AI. There's no need for great art in that. You've got a database of stupendous proportions.
We are kind of in the same place. I was highly specific, which is I think the next generation Maple Story is absolutely AI driven.
Next generation what?
Maple Story, that style of game.
Oh, okay.
Deeply immersive, kind of MMO-like thing is completely set up for this in 2 different ways. Number one is the language-limited style of its presentation really lends itself to less artfulness in that style. And number 2 is the art direction is just perfect for AI. Perfect for AI.
Well, similar, I think, graphic novels. Yeah. I can imagine a graphic novel was generated where you can give input at any time, but it presented as a graphic novel with language and drawings and all that.
I think 10 times fast for a tenth of the cost.
That's probably happening right now, even.
I'm not sure that genre, but I think the best and first use for AI in the game will be as a sidekick. To make it a sidekick character, enjoyable, believable, someone you want to spend a lot of time with.
And help. You're just going to make us cry over Floyd all over again.
I would like a DM, a good DM, so that I could play D&D by myself. Now, I really like playing it as a group, but honestly, that's my biggest
So
instinct.
you have the DM, and then 5 more instances become your party. They just your personalities. Actually, just license your friends to be.
Your friends' avatars in.
Gordon, what do you think?
Well,
I think Gordon likes the idea of taking people out of the equation.
yeah, no. I'd like people. They're squishy. But, no, I was recently interviewed at a place, and they were doing digital twin stuff, right? And their idea was that they were going to go out and find streamers, load all their shit in, and have that streamer now operate 24/7 because they can twin them and literally, have the streamer, the streamer's avatar is the streamer from then on. And every once in a while he'll show up and do live stuff. He or she would show up and do live stuff too. And I go, okay, I get it. That sounds horrifying, but totally understandable and it sounds totally doable right now.
Well, and it's built around a problem, which is content creation for those guys is an enormous challenge.
Right. Well, but that fake authenticity If they can pull that off, which is really the only extreme is authenticity. If they can pull that off, it's in game over.
Well, it means that the next successful one won't even be real.
Yeah, it's Max Bedroom on steroids.
Exactly. It's not John Miller, John Miller, but it's better than about 90. The truth is, soccer commentators aren't all that great, and so it's doing pretty well. Again, it's the auto drive versus self-driving car. It's good enough.
This isn't an answer about the first one, but I think it's an answer about a few steps later. Whatever, if you figure that the creation of this technology allows an infinite number of titles, if we think of games, to be created, there will be a standard which is no human intervention or minimal human intervention, a starting point, okay, go. Whatever that standard is, I think people will get tired of. If you then back up one step and you say, what is the intervention? You said 10 times faster, 10% the price. What is the intervention that turns out at each era of tech and opportunity to be the level that produces uniqueness, such that people will cluster on something because it differentiates? And somebody would say, okay, what's the lowest cost way, which is not the answer. The answer is, what is the most clever, unique, and personal way to take a world in which we can have infinite stories that are pretty good or at some level. At that point, if that is the ocean, we don't want to sample each square inch of the ocean in some way. How do we make it something that you then want to reach your content and sample?
Don, are you talking about the intervention of the player or the designer?
I think it is the designer, but part of the designer's view could be how they involve the player.
Yeah.
Because I think you could say there's a phase in which the players run it. The thing is that, and this is a much bigger topic, the thing that we did with Neverwinter Nights that I think really helped us break through with that game is, I was thinking, this is very early on, I started thinking, this is not about game design, this is about set design. We're creating props, we're creating situations, we're setting up improv for players. But if we're creating things, we cut the players out of it. They don't have a chance to be making things. We're finding excuses for them to go places, have, the combat itself, the adventures and stuff, do stuff. And then we're populating it with reasons to go there and with different results that can happen. And we built a quest system in, so the different kinds of quests, we only had set pieces, because this is we went live in 91. We only had set pieces, but we can send you to different places and say, well, for today, here's the thing, and here's the special reward for today. Thinking about it in terms of creating a stage and pieces for people to improv on, I think that's what made us work. And at that point, we weren't trying to build something gigantic. We could build at a scale that could actually ship. So if you take that and then magnify it by 1 billion, there's probably a phase in which you can make things that are interesting for players with minimal intervention. That then satiates, and then what comes after that?
I'm thinking under similar lines. Quick, I don't know exactly whether this will be the next one, but something that would be relatively fast to create would be a new Tetris or Match 3 or Angry Birds or some, I could see people doing prompts and trying random things to come up with that very quickly. A lot of these things that other people are suggesting here sound good, but they're going to take a little longer, and I think they will happen. But in terms of the first one, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody right now is just generating 50 brand new types of casual games. And, it's like Alexei spent the rest of his life after Tetris so far just trying to recreate, the lightning striking. And I think of Will's, opportunity space and looking for those mountains that we haven't found yet. It feels like there probably are a few out there that would be really simple like that. And this might be a way to find it.
I'm really curious to hear Sid's answer to this question.
Yeah, Philip.
So we have a mode in a lot of games called pass co-op. I think AI providing that that experience could be, the killer app potentially. That possibility is interesting.
We lose. I mean, everybody here, we lose a high proportion of our players the first hour.
Yep.
If all we ever got out of this was simply some mechanism that kept that from happening, how many more?
You're 3 minutes on mobile.
You get my coin.
Yeah.
Literally, if AI simply makes it so that you're more likely to find the success you're looking for in the first hour of that application, the ROI on that's outstanding.
Well, no, it was just describing it. I saw some Chinese developer developed, there's like some certain genre of soccer game that play on mobile, and they had a system where you could say, I want to have rhinos and I want to have lightning hit the players random. You describe weird rule modifications, and it would, within 5 minutes, recompile a game, and you'd be playing. That exists right now.
Yeah. My two comments. One, I would never even begin to try to predict what the first one would be. I mean, it's hard. But the kind of two thoughts again,
Isn't it?
well, I won't say with too much authority. One is I do think that, and it's not really a game, but that an agent that reduces the friction of getting into a game, I can see a lot of value for, because people do get stuck. Hey, I see you're stuck here. Why don't you go do that? You know what? I know they told you to get the key, but it's right over here. You know what I mean? And so I can see a great value of just reducing the friction so people can get into our games. But one other thought I had when you guys were talking, which is, a little off, which is like, what's the value of scarcity? It's like, I think about Star Wars when you couldn't, every 3 or 4 years, and it was like, I was there, spending the night, people were in sleeping bags, and now there are so many Star Wars things, I don't even care anymore. And it's not just because I'm old, okay? There's just so many of them that I'm not as excited about it.
Yeah.
And so I think there's something to be said about the value of scarcity.
Quick last question. It's 12 o'clock, but how many people here stood in line for the premiere of Empire Strikes Back, or got there way early?
Overnight.
Overnight?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not quite.
It feels irrational.
Very interesting.
Test site, no option for me.
He had his AI waiting online for him.
Chris, could I just take 30 seconds before we go?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. I just wanted to mention real quick, I brought a box of my books. One thing I left out is I've done over the last few years is that I've written 4 books. I brought 3 of them, copies of 3 of them here. If somebody would like to grab a copy, I stuck it up over there. One is my novel, Literary Mystery. My starting point was, what if somebody who's so withdrawn from the world, ill-fitting, awkward, that everything they do makes them look weird and guilty, was framed for a murder. Okay, that was the novel starting point. There's a novelette just short, which in a world where all homelessness and stuff is being solved, people are swept off the street, given the services they need for free. It's all taken care of. It's all very good for you. What if there was a guy who didn't agree? And then the third thing is, it's nothing that will do anything for anybody here. It's indie games from dream to delivery. It's a series of questions and cautionary tales for game dev that has done very well, and a lot of indie teams have used kind of as a way in. Everybody here could teach me way more than anything you would get out of 16 copies of that book. But if you work with other teams, it might be interesting to you and stuff like that. So if you're interested in saying, please grab it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Stay with us for episode 10, where we'll explore the evolution of games and their profound impact on society.